You weren't born for this. That's the part no one tells you, that most people who did what you did started out just like you, with a degree, a cheap suitcase, and the naive belief that logistics is a neutral profession. You graduated with a degree in international trade. You speak English, Russian, and French. You have superhuman patience for customs forms, transport routes, and the little bureaucratic mazes that paralyze everyone around you. You were hired by a medium-sized company in a port city. Good job, good salary, good prospects. Rice to Sudan, medical equipment to Somalia, construction materials to northern Syria. You quickly learned that the job title doesn't matter. What matters is the paperwork. The goods go where the paperwork says they go, and the paperwork goes where you put it. 3 years in, you're in a hotel bar in Dubai. The lobby has that specific smell of expensive air conditioning and new money. A man sits down next to you, well-tailored suit. He doesn't say who he works for. He just says he has a client with a logistics problem in a hard-to-reach place. Agricultural tools, he says, for a group in the interior of the Congo. The roads are blocked by the government. The only way in is by air. Short runway, difficult terrain. He doesn't need a soldier, he explains. He needs someone who can solve the problem from A to B. The payment is 5 times your annual salary, in cash, upfront. You think for a moment that could be measured in seconds. You accept. You decide. The plane lands. The cargo is delivered. You return to the hotel, take a shower, order room service, and feel that thing that will dominate the rest of your life. Not the money, but the competence. The feeling of having done something that very few people in the world could do. Agricultural tools were never agricultural tools. You know that. You decided not to think about it. You resign from the company and go to work for yourself. The first step is to erase your footprint. You set up companies in places that ask few questions, post office boxes in Panama, corporations in Cyprus, ghost addresses in Liechtenstein. They are not businesses, they are instruments. You learn to think in abstract terms. There is no you in these operations. There is a chain of legal entities that never touch each other directly. Then you learn the acronym that will change everything. EUC, End User Certificate. It's a document that certifies that a certain shipment, say 5,000 rifles, is being sold to the national police force of some country with a recognized government. With the right paper, with a legitimate stamp from an authority that cost enough to be bought, you can move weapons from an unused communist arsenal in Eastern Europe to wherever you want. After the plane takes off, no one checks where it lands. Engine trouble, diversion, force majeure. The rifles end up where they always have. The paperwork says otherwise. The paperwork is what legally exists. You buy a plane. An old, rusty cargo plane, abandoned in a hangar in Ukraine since the end of the Soviet Union. $40,000, a ridiculous investment for what it will yield. The pilot's name is Sergei. He drinks before every flight. Not out of addiction, you realize after a while, out of ritual. He doesn't speak English, he doesn't speak French, but he can land in the dark, on a dirt runway, without instruments, at an altitude where the engines are running at their limit. You learn to trust him more than anyone with a degree. Now you have the whole cycle. You buy the cargo, you put the paperwork together, you hire the transport, you manage the silence of everyone in the chain. The first time you fly for a direct delivery is dawn. You scrape the tops of the trees for 40 minutes before you see the torches lit on the runway, men positioned every 20 meters holding fire to indicate where the safe ground ends. Sergei's expression doesn't change. You hold the metal bar next to the door and breathe through your mouth. The plane lands. You stand at the open cargo door. The smell comes before any images. Burning trash, engine smoke, wet earth, and something organic you'd rather not identify. Men emerge from the darkness with machetes at their waists and red berets. They are not security guards. You stopped using that word a long time ago. A man climbs the ramp at 3 a.m. wearing sunglasses. He has no bank account. He carries a backpack. Inside, packets of golden powder, gold mined by workers in conditions you decide not to ask about. You weigh it on the portable scale. The number is right. You nod. Your team pushes the crates down the ramp. Go, go, go. Sergei is already warming up the engines. You need to be in the air before dawn. Over time, you stop thinking about the crates. You think about routes, about windows of opportunity, about which customs officials accept watches and which need something more discreet, a transfer to his son's college account, a paid-off apartment in a city where no one will look for it. You learn that every man has a price, and that the price is rarely what you imagine. A lieutenant can be bought for $500. A port director wants his grandson to study in Boston. You pay for all of this as an operating cost. No judgment. It's an equation. The cargo dances. It leaves a state warehouse in Bulgaria, transits through a free port in the Emirates, disappears at a border between two countries that the world has forgotten exist. You know the buyers. They are not what the movies have shown. They are men who quote Machiavelli and Fanon, while teenage soldiers around them carry their crates on their shoulders. One of them says to you, smiling, "You are the magician. You bring the rain." You like that. You shouldn't like that. The following years have their own logic of escalation. Rifles become anti-aircraft systems. Ammunition becomes dismantled helicopters declared as automotive parts. You learn that a tank is impossible to hide, but that a dismantled tank inside a series of industrial containers is simply heavy machinery in transit. You buy an apartment in Monaco, a watch that costs more than the house you grew up in. Under the bed, a backpack always ready, $500,000 in untraceable diamonds, and 4 passports with 4 identities you keep active with periodic renewals. You tell yourself you didn't choose violence, you just moved objects from one place to another. If they wanted to kill themselves anyway, you just provided efficiency. You repeat this until you believe it. The breakdown begins as it always does, small. A shipment is flagged, a name appears on a report where it shouldn't. You change your phone, you change your route, you sleep in different hotels every night for 3 weeks. Then comes the contact. Not from the police. You know how to hide from the police. The meeting is arranged in a discreet office in Vienna. The man looks like a university professor. He speaks softly. He has a thin folder on the table. He opens it and slides a photograph toward you. Sana Airport. Your plane. A date 6 months ago. "We can make this file disappear," he says. He works for an American agency. He doesn't need to say the name. "We're wasting your time with insurgents without a budget. We have more structured needs." Governments cannot be seen supplying weapons to groups they don't officially recognize. They need someone between them and the problem. They need you. The Pentagon transfers money to a company in Delaware that no journalist will ever find. That company buys obsolete Soviet weapons from a stockpile in Albania. The weapons fly to a training exercise in Jordan, where at some point part of the cargo crosses a border it shouldn't cross. You've committed federal crimes with federal authorization. The difference between you and a common criminal is that you have a phone number that answers when you call. But the number stops answering. Your paranoia you managed like a chronic illness becomes acute. You check for explosives under your car every morning. You never sit with your back to the door. You change your SIM card every week. You sleep poorly and dream of faces you cannot name. You sold out to the wrong side in a war that changed sides without warning. A text message, "We need to talk." Your contact says a peace agreement is going to be signed, that a new administration wants to show results, that they need someone to present to the cameras. You are the perfect candidate. You know too much to be let go, you're too expensive to keep. You are at an airport in Bangkok. It is late, the lobby is crowded. You are tired in a way that is not physical. It is the kind of tiredness that comes from years of making decisions you cannot tell anyone about. The noise starts before you see anything. Men in tactical vests cut through the crowd. The crowd parts like water. You have exactly 2 seconds of clarity before you are thrown to the marble floor. You don't scream. You knew this day would come.
you always knew. On the news, the anchors use the expression merchant of death. They list the conflicts, the countries, the estimated death tolls. They don't mention the names of the agencies that hired you, the governments that signed the orders, the ministers who received the briefings. You watch it all on a screen inside an interrogation room. The irony is not subtle. The cell is 3 meters by 2. You spend the first few days sleeping, not out of peace, out of collapse. Your body simply shuts down after years of functioning on adrenaline. And then, gradually, something unexpected happens. The nightmares subside. You no longer need to check the car. You no longer need to change your phone. You no longer need to calculate who knows what and how much each person's silence is worth. Prison, you realize, is the first predictable structure you have inhabited
in over 15 years. You think about the cubicle at the port company, the monotony of customs documents, the smell of bad coffee at 8 in the morning. You traded that for wars in nameless countries. You don't know if it was a mistake. You know you would do it differently, not for moral reasons, but because the calculations have changed, because the exit became more expensive than the entrance, because the clients who protected you needed a scapegoat more than an operator. This is not regret. It is just analysis. You moved things from A to B, when B was a place no one should go. The wars would have happened without you. Maybe. But with you, they happened faster, with more precision, with pieces that fit together better. You were efficient. That's the only honest epitaph there is. You were very, very efficient.